Hey, this is Sanyam Bhutani, and you're listening to Chai Time Data Science, a podcast for data science enthusiasts where I interview practitioners, researchers, and Kagglers about their journey, experience, and talk all things about data science. Welcome to my favorite Kaggle interview on the series so far. Yes, my favorite interview. In this episode, I interview Andrada Olteanu, Kaggle Notebooks Master. Andrada has had an amazing journey on Kaggle, which started with a post, "Is Kaggle helping your resume?" to becoming a Notebooks Master 6 months later. We talk about what happened between those 6 months, the struggles of learning something new, and how did she go about learning data science. Andrada comes from a background and an inclination towards arts and languages and is now working as a data scientist. How did she make the transition? How did she go about learning visualizations, modeling, and creating these notebooks that explore different areas of data science, different areas of different competitions, and her general advices to anyone who's looking out to get started in this journey? This is a very honest and transparent overview of her journey that I really enjoyed. I found it very relatable, and hopefully, everyone from the audience will. So, without further ado, here's the conversation. Please enjoy the show. I'm very excited to be interviewing Andrada Olteanu, who's fortunately having tea, which is very rare on this podcast. Andrada, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to say here before we start that I enjoy your podcast so much, and I'm a huge fan. And I think your podcasts are such an added value to this community. Like, I've watched so many people that I admired in your podcast, and it's like you can almost touch their personality through this podcast. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're too kind. Hopefully, people will learn a lot through your journey, which has been very inspiring as well. We'll dive a lot into different parts of it. I want to first start by asking, how did you get interested in data science? You were working as a data analyst, but you were also studying stats at one point. When did you realize that data science is something you want to pursue?
Okay, so I've never been one of those kids that I knew from the bat what I wanted to do in life. So in high school, I had all these people around me that were wanted to be doctors, or I don't know, go into architecture and so on. I had no idea. So ending up in stats was it just happened. And because I really wanted to go to masters abroad, I knew I wanted to work. And I kind of took the decision to try to find work that would suit my area of expertise. So I ended up as a data analyst trainee at Avon, and afterwards a full-time employee. So I was very lucky, but there was 2 years and a half. It was a huge work experience for me, and it helped me realize after these 2.5 years and the ending of my stats undergrad that I wanted to pursue data science. It sounded nice. This is what I will say. It looked like something that the next natural step. Data analytics, oh, you want to do more and go deeper, maybe try data science. And I enrolled in this Masters of Data Science and Analytics in Belfast, UK. And in the meantime, I remember that summer, so last summer, I started this course on Udemy. It was called Data Science Bootcamp on Python.
Python for Data Science and Machine Learning Bootcamp, I think.
Oh my God, that course is absolutely amazing. So I did that, and it kind of put my basics, and I started, because data science is such a broad field. that everybody's talking about. So machine learning, but then it got deep learning and neural networks, and then some visualization. Oh, but you need to know programming, and it's, oh my God, what's happening? So it was very hectic for me to understand what the field is about. So I loved it. And I continued in my master's, and I discovered Kaggle at the end of last summer, 2019. And I've been hooked on it since then. Yeah.
And there are these different things you mentioned. So how did you learn programming? How did you figure out what you need to learn? Because it also comes through your kernels. You're always exploring different ones. It's not just EDA. There's also deep learning. There's also audio analysis. There's also feature engineering. How did you decide what to learn, and how did you go about learning them?
Okay, so I started with that Udemy course, right? And afterwards, I remember when I was in undergrad, but I wasn't prepared for Kaggle then. I heard about Kaggle, and I entered into the site, and I was like, oh, sounds so complicated, like competitions and very smart people. What am I doing here? Out of sight, out of mind. No, not for me.
Okay.
But after doing that Udemy course, I thought, okay, let's give it a try. And I entered onto Kaggle again just for the courses. I wasn't intending to do anything more, but they have such a broad area of fields, of fields that I thought, okay, I can further this studying of mine, maybe hands-on. So I started there Python, although I already kind of knew that starter. Then the visualization, I think they had a pandas as well. And afterwards, machine learning with intermediate, beginner intermediate, and I think they have another course. And that machine learning course gets you into a competition. So I had this urge to learn more through all these courses just because they are hands-on, as I said, and they are very, very interesting. So I did that. And afterwards, my master's also helped me kind of broaden this topic a little bit, just because I learned R as well in my master's. So I had two languages in my pocket. And afterwards, they kind of get you through data mining and machine learning, which actually ended up being some deep learning. And I got my idea on what I need to learn. They also introduced me to PyTorch, and I'm actually very happy that I started with PyTorch. And another thing was the sentiment analysis bit, which I don't know where I got this. I think somebody told me as a data scientist, you can do the sentiment analysis. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do sentiment analysis on Elon Musk's tweets. I was like, oh, so original, Yeah, so I got this idea as well. And when I started doing that in my master's, I was like, oh, I need to do a notebook on that as well on Kaggle. Not on Elon Musk's tweets, but on something else. Yeah.
Okay. From your Kaggle profile, it says, I referring to you. I don't discriminate. I love Python, R, machine learning, deep learning, visualizations, clean notebook, and everything in between.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it's a debate around Python or R, or is Kaggle actually helping you in the real world scenarios, or I love everything. I'm trying my best to learn anything and everything.
So you've always had this curiosity to learn, which is why you've always been picking up different skills. You made a post 6 months ago on Kaggle. It's titled "Is Kaggle on the resume helping?"
Yeah.
You got some interactions there, and I think that's what got you interested in Kaggle. Why did you pick notebooks as the first thing to attack?
So actually, I was scared. And now I wouldn't recommend this. But after finishing my courses, I got hooked up on that competition, the house pricing competition, like the playground, competition, and it was amazing. And I kind of got to play a little bit with the leaderboard. And afterwards, I was like, okay, maybe I can try a real competition. But I didn't know the perks of Kaggle, and I didn't know there are people that are talking in discussions that can help you. I didn't really see the notebooks there that are people that are sharing how you can approach in the starting phases with your competition. So I know I opened it. I tried to start the notebook. I couldn't read the data just because it was too big, and pandas were like, "Oh, no, lady, stop there." And that was my experience. I closed it and I was like, oh my God, I'm not prepared for this. In retrospect, it helped me a lot with my notebooks process and learning, but I wouldn't recommend. Competitions are the way to go if you want to truly learn. So what I did was like, okay, I can do competitions. It's for big people stuff. What can I do here? Because it's still interesting. So I know I wanted, so the first notebook, I was like, okay, I really want to play a little bit with pandas and visualization, just because I didn't have a good grasp on it. So I'm going to do that. And afterwards, I was like, okay, I can start learning Plotly. What subject can I choose to learn Plotly? Afterwards, I think I had a datathon in Belfast, which was amazing. This was an on-site back in the time when we were able to do that.
What are you talking
On-site,
about?
I'm sorry, on-site datathon. It was amazing. And because we were such a mess, the team was such a mess in that datathon. It was on Kaggle mental health in tech survey. And I remember I went back home. I was like, okay, I want to do this right. And I redid it and started cleaning. It was my first time actually cleaning some data. And I remember I tried to do a bunch of stuff like also visualization, but maybe we can do some classification here and so on. So I was pairing what I learned in school with what I was interested in and everything. And I started doing notebooks. And I think around January this year or February, I was like, okay, I want to try another competition again. And I tried the Titanic competition. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And I had a pretty goodish score, I think, but I was way down in the leaderboard. How can I do this better? Which was my question. How can I do this? And then I discovered the notebook section. And I remember this guy that opened my mind in the idea of how notebooks can actually be so insightful and clean. It was from Turkey, I think. Oh, I'm gonna butcher his name. Gudes Evitan. It's a guy that has lots of upvotes on his notebook on Titanic and does feature engineering, like hardcore feature engineering on Titanic. Hardcore. And I kind of followed his notebook, and he was so structured and amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I want people to look at my notebooks and feel that they can understand and have some insight. I don't want to throw things around there. And this was like a step up for me. And afterwards, I remember for the sentiment analysis, I was like, oh, I can research on Kaggle as well. And I found Xavier, which was amazing, again with his R notebooks and his sentiment analysis. I think it was on Lord of the Rings data, and it helped me a lot. And it was also the first time I kind of connected with somebody on Kaggle, just because I tweeted my notebook with thanks to him because it was his idea. And he responded and he was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. And that's okay. And lastly, what gave me kind of the community brings you up and kind of helps you as well, because you get feedback on your work, good and bad, and you can choose to implement it. And I remember I was having such a tough time with the deep learning. It was such an abstract concept for me. I All my YouTube page was recommendations on deep learning.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be all the time? You try to go watch a music video and the next recommendation is a lecture.
Yeah, exactly. So I had no idea where I could get some information on deep learning, and I was trying to learn on everything. And I think it took me maybe 2 or 3 months to get a grasp on the basics, but a very good grasp. So I was like, first of all, I can do these notebooks just for myself. I wasn't doing them actually for because I was learning for an exam. So I did them especially for me, just to lay out everything. But I realized that when you're doing these notebooks for others as well, you are doing them better, just because you kind of, well, I can get it, but maybe somebody needs more explanations. So you go there, and through these explanations, you're starting to actually learn and understand yourself. So I did these deep learning notebooks on fit for neural networks, convolutional and recurrent, like the basics. And I remember Chris Deote, maybe I shouldn't say this, I'm embarrassing him. Chris Deote commented on one of my notebooks saying, "Oh my God, very good explanation." What? So that's where I knew I'm on the right path with the notebooks. I'm tackling competitions now, but still I'm most known for my notebooks at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. The community aspect, it's a very vibrant community on Kaggle. I don't think there's some negative instances, but most of the times it's everyone who's there to learn and grow together on the platform and in data science.
Yeah, I agree.
For the audience, I'd also like to mention you did win a beginner spot prize in the datathon. You had mentioned on the kernel or on the dataset that you mentioned on mental health.
Yeah. We got a beginner's prize because we were four girls in the team, and we were very excited. And I think that's what got our prize, because we were a mess. We didn't know what to do. We didn't uh, Git who, PyCharm who, and we just met, and nobody knew what the other were knowing, and it was a mess. But it was so fun, and I remember it was a 2-day competition, and um, I got up. So Saturday was all day, and Sunday half a day, and I got up and was at school at I think 7:30 or 8, and then the girls came later, but they've told me that they slept in just because they went to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning, because she had this huge idea, and oh my God, how to do this. So we were super excited about this, and we tried our best, and I think the people that the organizers saw that and were like, oh, we want to encourage this. Yeah.
Got it. That's also a very honest reflection on your journey. I think maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too slow in learning, but there's always this feeling whenever we're starting with something new. It's like being thrown into water. I don't know how to swim, and you're just throwing your hands and feet around in water. If I try to pick up Plotly, I look at interesting plots, but I don't know how to get there. I look at feature engineering, all right, but how do I get there? With Plotly, I'm trying to make subgraphs, but things aren't coming right. They're being printed left and right. Nothing's working. Then you get an idea. Some things work, then nothing works, and it's this cycle. So, was it a similar process for you? How did you progress through learning all of these?
It was a very similar cycle for me.
That's a
And
relieving.
I've been told, and maybe you should do that too, to not tell myself I'm a slow learner, just because I don't know. I think everybody in some areas are slow learners, and I think that's the best way to do it, because when you succeed, you are super happy and accomplished with what you did. Whereas if you do it in just a few seconds, maybe it's not going to be that interesting to you just because you did it so quick. So this pace, I think, although I hate it, because I feel like all other people, I watch other people and I see their progress is much faster maybe than mine, or they are doing much more interesting stuff, but
Exactly.
everybody is extremely different, and you should just compare yourself to what you did, to what you were yesterday or last year. So, and maybe at some point you're kind of starting to flatten
Mhm.
your learning curve, which is okay. You can then realize it and be like, oh, okay, I need to try harder, learn more. Maybe I'm not where I wanted to be, but don't compare with the guy or the girl last year who just started and now they're like, no, they are just them. You don't know their background. You don't know. Maybe I never had this inclination towards math. Never. My parents are still shocked what I'm doing now, and
Makes the two of us.
I am currently shocked as well. I was usually towards the artsy stuff and languages and reading. That's what my stuff. Math, no. Programming, no. What? But I feel like I am incorporating that artist stuff now whenever I'm doing notebooks or visualizations or stuff like that. So I'm not shutting that down completely, but I learned to love this slow pace. But at the end, I really get something and I'm really happy. And that's all that matters. Yeah.
That's a very great advice for anyone who's struggling with their learning. So when you started with kernels, and there's also this aspect on Kaggle that you're looking around on different kernels, you're sort of trying to learn what's going on there, and then you're trying to bring that with your own twist, which you do. In the initial phase, you just end up, or at least I just end up replicating the notebook I was looking at. So how did you get started with improving on your storytelling skills?
Um, I think the artist stuff comes here. Uh, yeah, exactly. So the first thing I usually, maybe this is gonna be unsolicited advice, but what I usually do is not just fork the kernel. I do a whole new notebook by myself, and then I follow it by coding the other notebook. Because by coding, you print a lot of stuff, you look at maybe tweaks, and you're having this idea. Oh, this person did like this, but I think I can do it like this because it's much cleaner. Or I want to look at this result as well. So by forking, you're just copying and then you're trying to build on it. Whereas when you are kind of following the notebook line by line, you are getting new ideas no matter what. Even if it's just changing the colors because maybe those doesn't suit you, or I don't know, changing the code to be maybe this would be a function better, and so on. So this is what I usually do in the beginning. And afterwards, for example, for notebooks on competitions, for word call, for example, I was okay, this is gonna be a very interesting EDA. But how do I do this to be very pretty? And I was so excited about the birds and the idea of singing, and they're so cute. And then I got from Xavier, actually. He had this notebook, I think on Star Wars, that he was putting images on the plots. So it wasn't an original idea.
Mhm.
No way. But I knew I wanted to do that at some point. And this felt that was the perfect competition for that. Or, for example, the color schemes, I would say, are very important as well. And maybe you can find some. I use HTML color codes. You can Google it. It's a very, very nice site. Or color palettes, I think. COOLORS. I think it's another great site for color palettes and so on. So you can try that as well. And I think improving it's also writing. You need to be sure that you don't just use bolding for anything. You want to try to use bolding for really the important stuff. Or when you're writing something that kind of concludes, or you're uh, getting some new idea and you want to put it in there, you want to highlight it very, very well. So playing with these tweaks on notebooks, it's also very, very special. And also being sure that the notebook is very clean, no weird lines there, hide what you need to hide, keep it very, very clean in coding as well. I also like to, this is where my slow learning also comes from. I usually comment. I comment and I do the line of code. Comment, do the line of code. Just because I find it more easy to understand what I'm doing when it's everything commented. Whereas there are all these people, like these grandmasters on competitions that are doing like hugely intelligent notebooks, but there is no comment. So I need to slowly get into them and be stuck at some point and spend there a few days maybe, and afterwards go back. So comments, in my opinion, are very important, especially not only for beginners, but if you want a person to understand what you did, because everybody has its own style, right? You want to comment just a little bit, at least, to help the people.
Absolutely. Your attention to detail, I think it's true to anyone who does great storytelling. There are these little attention to detail. Martin Hens, Heads or Tails, does it. Parul Pandey does it. In your bird call notebook, for example, you've matched the color of the bird's picture with the plot's colors in every single plot, and there's these little details, attention to details, that really make it stand out for a reader who's really trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I appreciate you saw that. I
I'm
really
sure
do.
everyone did. So, what does a end-to-end process for you look like once you have an idea or a thought? How do you go about writing the kernel, or how do you pick up the idea, and where do you go from there?
On So I would say it's the same process when I'm doing a notebook for a competition and a notebook just for how I did, for example, an analysis on uh, the Rick and Morty scripts or the deep. So these are off competitions, but this process I would say is the same. So first of all, I find what I want to talk about. So whether it's something that you'd want to learn, like for example, you want to get a better grasp of R, for example. You know Python very well, but you want to understand R. So this is going to be a notebook on R. What exactly? Choose a topic or choose a competition that's going to suit kind of your needs and what you'd like to learn. And first of all, go maybe through the notebooks that are already there, because don't forget to reference them, of course, but go through those this work because these people already put so much effort into it. So you are very new to this topic. These people already did half a job for you. They've researched, they've looked on Google, they already know the basic stuff. So you can look at them and then try to see how you can incorporate that in your notebook. Afterwards, when you did that research, you can start coding. And from that, I usually let my imagination go wherever I would feel like it would be interesting, depending on the topic. And afterwards, you start Googling more, because you can get some ideas just by Googling. Or, for example, you don't even have to Google data science stuff to get ideas. I was looking, I think it was, I don't know, it was a site on some explanations, and they had this, you know how in Jupyter Notebooks you can put these highlighted areas where you can do in CSS, we can do like warnings where are red and green, where are success and so on. Yeah, so these are the basic stuff. But I saw in this on this site, they were using something a bit different, and they were using different colors, and the shading was a bit different, and they had a nice shadow to it. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I'm not letting this down until I'm being able to do that. And I figured it out in a long time, but I did it. So you can get ideas on the Google is on to your feet, right? You can use Google anytime. And afterwards, just do your references, as I've said, and also post on LinkedIn and Twitter, because you want to share that with your community. I would say the end goal, of course, upvotes are very nice, and upvotes help you get out there and get some reach and show that you are really good at what you're doing. But if you're starting with just, okay, I need to have lots of upvotes, your creativity is gonna be shut. Because I saw this side note. I saw this. It was a documentary, and they were studying people, and it was a creative process. But some of them were just incentivized with having fun, and the others with money. The ones that were incentivized with money because it was a creative process performed worse than the one that were just having fun. Because of course, when it's how to say it, when it's a kind of mathematic process, money might influence, and in this case, upvotes. But when it's a creative process, you want to just be free and do whatever with no consequences. So upvotes are super nice, but they shouldn't be a goal, should be a direct consequence of you making a super great notebook, right? Yeah. I don't have many upvotes on lots of my notebooks that I'm super happy about. So it's the algorithm, it's how people perceive it. Maybe you like it more than other people. So don't be influenced by upvotes directly.
And the enjoyment of your process definitely comes through. Even in the Rick and Morty sentiment analysis, you had put the cartoons in the plots, and also they're color coded the plots to match the characters' colors.
Yeah. uh, I think ggplot, or I don't know, there is a library that has color codes. It's called Rick and Morty. It's like, oh,
Okay.
I need to use it. Yeah. So I didn't even it's a library that does that.
I learned something new. I have a few questions that are broad, short ones. So if I may, it's a rapid fire based on Kaggle.
Yeah. Okay.
The favorite kernel you've authored?
I to date, I think still the deep learning ones. I'm doing one on this. Oh, it's a short fire. I'm currently working at the Kaggle survey one, and that might be my best work yet, but it's not finished. So I'm going to say deep learning notebooks.
Favorite kernel you've read?
I think the one from Chris Deote on ion competition. He did there some very interesting. It's called one feature model, I think, or one something like that.
Yes.
It was amazing the way he treated the problem and he showed through graphs. I highly recommend it if for anyone who wants to know how to kind of normalize the data, remove drift, and see a great human in action.
Okay. I know you're not biased to any frameworks, but if you were to pick your favorite frameworks for different purposes, let's say plotting, modeling, etc., which ones would they be?
Like libraries, or I would say, I would still say I think PyTorch.
And for plotting?
For plotting, ggplot. For Python, Seaborn, yes, but ggplot is amazing for R. So I usually, if you want to do visualization and easy, you can do better with R.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite competition?
So far, I think the melanoma one, the melanoma competition. Yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of the end of the first rapid fire. I went back to your post, and you actually also went back to it after you became a notebooks master. And you shared that Kaggle was very monumental in your professional journey as well. What was helpful? How do you suggest other people to utilize Kaggle? And if you could share those stories as well.
So I never expected Kaggle to be such a huge platform for me, but it is indeed. And I know there are people like myself a few months ago that had their doubts in Kaggle. So I was finishing my master's and I was prepared to get a job. And I was going to the market interviewing, and I remember most of the interviewers, I was like, "Oh, do you know Kaggle?" Poker face. Or, "Oh, I've heard of it." So you know that if the person never heard of it, they can't appreciate the struggle you put into a gold medal. They just see a gold medal or a silver medal or some upvotes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well," but they don't understand the struggle into it. So why should I put so much effort into Kaggle? I'm gonna tell you why. Because whatever your level is, maybe you're a beginner, you feel like you're intermediate or advanced, you can't really show what you can do just by talking or just by being or going to an interview and saying, "Yeah, I know how to code Python." And even that, I feel like in the industry, the interviewing still, especially in the computer science field, I feel it needs to work a bit, because most of the companies, for example, I've had companies that interviewed me on code, which would be for a computer, like a software engineer. But I'm a data scientist. Why don't you give me like a project to work on, or a pandas problem? Or even if you give me a pandas problem, I can't tell you from the top of my head what's the function. But if I Google it, I'm telling you in 2 minutes I'm gonna find it. So Google is not really used in the process. So the interviews I've been in are a dreadful process. So Kaggle gave me a portfolio, because the difference between me and maybe some other person that maybe might be even much more skilled than I am is that I am showing that I'm passionate and I'm showing what I know. through my notebooks and the scores in the competitions, or at least that you are interested and you are doing that in your free time, yes? Whereas this person that's highly skilled, they don't show anything. So they don't have coverage. People can't see you, people can't hire you. Yes. So, or it's a little bit harder. I'm not saying you need to do Kaggle, but for me, it was a win-win process. You learn, you get to know new people, and they're excited. So it kind of sticks to you, and you're getting excited just because they are super excited. And oh my God, I would like to code more instead of watching TV just because they are so excited, and I am now excited. And lastly, because you have a portfolio. So in an interview, for example, you can show, look what I know to do, and we can start the conversation from there. Now, Kaggle is getting bigger and bigger. I'm not saying all the companies know about Kaggle, but for example, I'm working at the moment at Endava, and Kaggle helped me a lot because I think he's now on, I think, 10 or 11 ranking, but Gabriel Preda, who is also Romanian, and I remember in January, February, I was a noob. I think I was contributor or something like that. I saw that a Romanian guy is in top 10 or around there, and I was like, oh, this is huge. And I followed him. And in a few months, he started noticing me back. And it was nice to have a grandmaster notice you and recognize your achievements. So when I was like, okay, I would like to get a job, I also asked him. You wouldn't get that if you were just looking on LinkedIn. And through the process, he liked me back, and I ended up at Endava, which is amazing, and it's an amazing company. Like, I kind of wished to be in a company like that when I graduated, so I'm super lucky that I am. So Kaggle got me a job in
Uh,
the end.
you mentioned this is like a dream job to you in your comment on your original post. Can you tell us what does a day in your life at Endeavor look like? What problems are you solving? What tasks are you working on?
So Endava is a like project. I don't know if I'm going to use the right word. So a project-based company. So we have lots of projects from clients, and we are working in teams to solve them, right? And I am currently in this team, and we are working with a client that kind of on feature information extraction. So there are these PDF files that went. I didn't do this stuff. I came in the team when they already had been doing this stuff. But what they did was they used OCR to extract the content and the kind of structure of the PDF files. Afterwards, went them through a classification using NLP. And after the classification of the documents in, like, let's say five classes, you then start the information extraction, which is hugely advanced from what I've been seeing, and they are super highly skilled people, and they are using all these methods and functions that they've created to extract information for the client, kind of to not need to go through each file, to just be an automated process. What I love about Endava is especially I love the fact that you don't have to do the same thing all the time. So you can be in a project when you're doing, for example, NLP, and afterwards you can move into a project when you do machine learning, and maybe another project where you do more visualization or dashboards for clients and so on. So this goes hand in hand with me wanting to explore as much as possible and learn as much as possible in the process. Yeah.
Okay. This is the final and repeat question that I ask to everyone and get very different answers, very insightful answers. What's your favorite or best advice to noob Kagglers who are just starting out in their journey?
Use LinkedIn and Twitter. So I've been talking about Kaggle a lot, and I think maybe I'm gonna move a little bit. It's amazing and just do Kaggle. But in my personal experience, Kaggle wasn't just enough because you want to get yourself out there. And at this moment, in this area and in this stage of life, there's a lot of competitivity there. Uh, and you want to show what you can do and interact with as many people as possible. So socializing and creating your community of data scientists and entering into the community, because it's a huge community. And I've realized after a few months that I'm starting to memorize the names without even trying, or recognizing the person and their capabilities and what they are doing only by looking at the photo, right? So it's a big community, but it's not that big. So after a few months, maybe a year, you're starting to get to know people. So going, I had a friend that told me this early in the beginning, and I'm super grateful. LinkedIn, so showing your work on LinkedIn, following or requesting friendship from data scientists, and going on Twitter and building your community there. I would recommend staying in that field. Like, don't. So let's say you are passionate about art, data science, and football. I would recommend keeping it in the data science field, and maybe go with maybe another account throughout your other passions. But when people know about you and you know they are data science person, it's better to get you out there. And uh, another thing is talk with people and try to connect with them, because you're gonna learn so many things from them. uh, I don't know how is it in your country, but in mine, Twitter isn't very used. So it was very hard to get on Twitter. I had 10 followers, I think, for 3 months. And then I got to 30 in 6 months or something like that. So I was posting basically for myself, but it's a process, and you are getting to know people from so many areas of the world, and you are getting messages, and you can answer them and help them and engage with them. So that's extremely important and adds value a lot. So don't just Kaggle, but use social media to put yourself out there. Yeah.
That's great advice. So I have a few personal questions that I'd like to end the interview with. Hopefully
Okay.
these are somewhat difficult. The first one is your favorite spot or country or any place you've visited in Europe. I've learned you've traveled quite a bit in Europe.
For what I've been traveling so far, and I haven't been traveling a lot, I think it's still Belfast. It was such a little, kind of cozy place, but still big enough to feel the city. And the air there is amazing. There's almost no pollution whatsoever compared with Bucharest. So you kind of feel your brain relaxing.
Okay. Favorite hike you've ever done?
Favorite hike? Oh,
You know, I did my homework.
um, I don't know, maybe that's too far back, but I remember I had a hike with my colleagues from Avon, and it was I think February, and it was snowing super heavy, and we ended up like we drove from work on Friday to the hike, and it took like 3 hours, and we arrived at 6 p.m. It was completely dark, and we started hiking in completely darkness with I think 1 meter of snow, and
Wow.
it was snowing, and it took us I think 3 hours to get 3 or 4 hours, and we got lost in. So it was the forest and you had the marks, but at some point you were having an open space and you wouldn't have any marks, and it was pitch dark, so you couldn't see anything. And I thought I was gonna die on that hike. So they needed to send somebody to get us. It was blizzard. But it was the favorite just because the soup afterwards was amazing, and the sleep was I completely blacked out.
I live in the mountains, but these things are scary when you're in it and make great conversation starters later on.
Yeah.
Last one, your favorite Gary Vee advice. I learned that you're a Gary Vee fan.
Oh, okay. Use LinkedIn. I think is, and it's not, I don't think it's my favorite, but it's the first thing I am thinking about right now. He had the Brand Minds interview, and he was saying that on LinkedIn, there isn't any social media platform out there besides LinkedIn at the moment where you can have such a big reach. So when you're posting on LinkedIn, you have reach through your network and above your network. So beyond was the word network. So use LinkedIn, as I said, to get yourself out there and show your work and what you're doing. Yeah.
Andrada, thank you for such an amazing interview. You're Andrada Olteanu with an extra U in your username on Twitter. For the audience, it's a first name concatenated with a second name followed by an extra U. You're also there on LinkedIn. Any other platforms where people can connect with you?
I think that's Kaggle.
Sorry.
And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thanks again for such an amazing conversation about your journey and such an insightful interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Your questions were amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to give it a review or feel free to shoot me a message. You can find all of the social media links in the description. If you like the show, please subscribe and tune in each week to Chai Time Data Science.